Be sure to use that hashtag everyday Sully. One of the reasons someone asked me why is that important, because sometimes I'm looking for comments that people have posted either online or on the Twitterverse or on whatever it is. And if I look for that hashtag everyday Sully, I can find some more of the stuff that you are saying. And you turned it on its head. That's me channeling Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight here on this May 4th, which is Star Wars weekend. It's funny, like my entire childhood seemed to be revolving around Star Wars and baseball, and I would have loved to have had a Star Wars day going to a game at Fenway Park as a kid in the 1980s. Let's go over, first of all, the trivia question. And the trivia question was, we talked about Barry Larkin, and I said, what father of a future All-Star was drafted just ahead of Barry Larkin in that draft? And the answer was, and a couple of you got right, by Ford St. Clair 3440 says the answer trivia question would be Bobby Witt. That's right. Bobby Witt Sr. Was drafted ahead of All-Star Hall of Famer Barry Larkin. And by the way, Bobby Witt Sr. had a really nice career. He wound up pitching. He wound up pitching 16 years in the major leagues. He had several years where people were fascinated by the win type, the win stat at the time, much more than I certainly am. But he pitched a bunch of innings. Over his 162 game average was 200 innings. He was 200 inning pitcher many years in his career. He put up some nice win totals for Texas, 1 year with Oakland, and he pitched for several teams. And he was part of that 2001 Arizona Diamondbacks team, which main job, besides breaking the hearts of Yankee fans that year, excuse me, I scratched my nose, but it was filled with players who received their only World Series ring, and Bobby Witt just happened to be one of them. That first round was amazing for a bunch of reasons. First of all, there was a lot of talent. BJ Surhoff was the number 1 overall pick. And BJ Surhoff had a terrific career. He was a fine player. He was a catcher for Milwaukee, later played with Baltimore. He was a terrific player. The number 2 pick was Will Clark, who was an MVP candidate, absolutely beloved San Francisco Giant. The number 3 pick was Bobby Witt, who had a good, solid career. I mean, that's all. I mean, was he the Cy Young hopeful of the Rangers thought? No, but he was a really good major league pitcher for a long time. Number 4 was Barry Larkin, who would be a Hall of Famer and was a native of Cincinnati, was drafted by the Reds, won an MVP with the Reds, helped the Reds win the World Series, played his entire career with the Reds, and there you go. The 5th pick went, so those are 4 really good picks. 1, 2, 3, 4. The number 5 pick, it's early. The number 5 pick was a minor league catcher named Kurt Brown. Kurt Brown from Glendora, California, and he played 7 years in the minor leagues. He got as far as AAA, but then his career ended. He was drafted by the White Sox. Never made it. So you had 4 solid. One of them was a Hall of Famer, all-stars, all this stuff in the first 4 picks. Then poor Kurt Brown never made it to the bigs. Do you know who's pick number 6? Barry Bonds. The Pirates picked Barry Bonds with number 6. There's a couple of things I find interesting about that. First of all, the White Sox could have had Barry Bonds. Just boom. The Giants could have drafted him. They would have circumvented the whole thing and just had drafted him. But I can't imagine a world where Will Clark wasn't a Giant. But yeah, the White Sox whiffed. That's one of the greatest whiffs in the history of baseball. Some other one, Rafael Palmeiro, by the way, who will probably eventually be in the Hall of Fame, was drafted number 22nd. And Greg Jeffries, who had a solid career, was drafted 20th. Walt Weiss, Joe McGrain, a lot of really good players in that draft. And I feel badly. I'm not picking on Kurt Brown, but man, if the White Sox could have a do-over and say, yeah, why don't we pick the best offensive player of this generation? So there you go for that. Let's before we go into talking about the late bloomers who are turning into solid players, let's take a look at who owned baseball on the 3rd of May. Kyle Hendricks The Angels picked up some veterans for the hope of contending. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Angels later on this week when I do a show about what I think the commissioner job should be. And it should be kicking the butt of some teams like the Angels, the A's, and the Pirates, and the Rays for that matter. But Hendricks pitched great against Detroit, pitching in the eighth inning. Angels won that game 5-2. Jake Myers got 13 total bases, including 2 home runs, and the Astros topped the White Sox 8-3. And Aaron Nola pitched 6 shutout innings, struck out 8 D-backs to get the 7-2 win for the Phillies. And Kyle Stowers got 2 home runs, including a dramatic 2-out walk-off come from behind grand slam as Miami shocked Sacramento 9-6. Half wobs go Aaron Judge, who's having somehow he's better without Juan Soto. Someone explain that to me. He homered and singled, but the Yanks lost to Tampa Bay. Kevin Gausman held Cleveland to 1 hit and no runs over 6 innings, but Toronto's bullpen is terrible. They lost 5-3. Bailey Falter, yet another Pittsburgh pitcher who had a terrific game. 1 run over 7 innings against San Diego. But the Padres still won 2-1. And Ozzie Albies, remember him? He went 3 for 4 with a home run, but the Braves were pounded by the Dodgers, who seemed to have righted the ship. And there you go. I mentioned the couple players who are kind of late bloomers in a way in terms of the teams they play for. Javier Báez should have been a Cub for life. He was a great hero. He and Chris Bryant should have been Cubs for life for how they led the Cubs to a World Series title. But in that weird 2021 where they decided to blow up the team, he was unceremoniously dumped to the New York Mets. Now, the Cubs actually won that trade because they traded Báez to the Mets and they got Pete Crow Armstrong, who is an all-star. And the Mets did not re-sign Báez, and he wound up signing a big honking contract with the Detroit Tigers, which goes on 20 some odd million tomatoes a year, and it goes on for the next, after this year, it's 2 more years. And boy, oh boy, did that look like a Busterino when he was mediocre at best in his first year with the Tigers in 2022. But little do we know that was going to be the apex. In 2023, he was downright unproductive and below a replacement player. Last year, he only played in 80 games. His OPS was a microscopic 516, and he wasn't even on the roster when they played in the postseason. And it was one of those things that the team got better once he was, shelved from injuries and ineffectiveness. So this looked like one of those classic terrible signings that they have to sit around for another 3 years of him just, being a money-sucking parasite. On the other hand, you had another player, Robbie Ray, who, lest we forget, won the Cy Young Award in 2021 with Toronto. And then because Toronto is one of the single weirdest organizations in baseball, they did not re-sign him. He wound up going to the Seattle Mariners and wound up, most famously with the Mariners letting up the walk-off home run to Yordan Alvarez in the playoffs when they brought him out of the bullpen. Well, he pitched one single game the next year. After that home run he let up to Alvarez, he started one game for the 2023 Mariners and was injured the rest of the year. Had surgery. While recovering, he was traded to the Giants. And then last year, he pitched 7 games, but really was not much of a factor. And he's 33, basically missed 2 whole seasons. That's not someone you really look at and go like, okay, yeah, we're going to rely on Robbie Ray this year. And then you'll get Javi Báez. So, well, this is going to be a disastrous year. Then an interesting thing happened to both players. First of all, let's go to Báez. Báez is playing for the Tigers, correct? I believe I'm right. And the Tigers are a really, really talented team. In case you missed it, they're not only in first place in the American League Central, but they are right now, they've won more games than any team in the American League. And they have an infield, as of this recording, of Torkelson at first, Gleyber Torres, who's been a nice pickup at second base, Trey Sweeney, who they acquired from the Dodgers last year in the Lorenzen trade, is at short, and Ibanez is at third. Um, they have a couple of Colt Keith comes in a little bit here and there. Could probably use a little bit of depth in their infield, but Javi Baez has found himself in center field, kind of like what happened with how Jose Altuve being moved to the outfield in Houston. But he's starting to hit. He's starting to hit the ball. And Javier Baez is, currently he's batting 300 with an 804 OPS. He's hit 3 home runs, and his on base isn't great, but he is, for someone who was supposed to be a non-factor. Maybe they should be, DFAing him. Suddenly, he's become an asset and actually playing pretty good defense in center field. And whatever's happening in Detroit is clearly working at this point. Meanwhile, Robbie Ray has become a win machine. Now, as I've said before, as one mentioned of Bobby Witt, I don't find a lot of use taking a look at the win-loss record because there's been terrific pitches. Just look at the players I mentioned yesterday. Bailey Falter threw 7 innings and let up 1 run, no decision. What, did he pitch badly that game? But you take a look at at what Robbie Ray has done on the mound for the San Francisco Giants. Besides the fact that his record is 4-0 and he pitched very well the other day, he has thrown 6 or more innings in 3 of his starts. And he has, his last 2 starts, he pitched 7 innings and combined 2 runs in those 14 innings that he threw. Suddenly, Robbie Ray is the pitcher that you turn to and say, hey, give me innings and keep it down. And you look at the fact that the San Francisco Giants have turned things around and are off to a terrific start. And they're getting Verlander pitched very well his last game, but his other starts have not been that great. Jordan Hicks has been bad. You got Logan Webb, who is basically becoming the new Matt Cain, of someone who pitches really well but doesn't get the run support. It's Robbie Ray, who's being the person you hand the ball. He gets you a bunch of innings, gets you a win, and you hand the ball so you don't have a worn-out bullpen. You know that concept of not always having your bullpen throw 3 or 4 innings a game? Well, Robbie Ray is helping do that. And it goes to show you, sometimes you can't judge a signing right away. If the Giants and the Tigers make the postseason this year, and they do so with contributions from Baez and from Robbie Ray, then by definition, you have to call those signings a success, at least in a certain degree. And the fact of the matter is, do you know what? It's like a good trade. Bad Robbie Ray was swapped for good Robbie Ray. And even if Javier Báez is only okay by the end of the year, remember, okay is always better than bad. In the last few years, he was bad and worthless. He was from the law firm of Bad and Worthless. So, as I said before, better late than never. Hey, do you ever take a look at your bank account and say, hey, where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending on food delivery and streaming service and all sorts of stuff. And now I budget smarter and I save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances and use Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. This is a bit of a sad anniversary, and because it is on this day, all those years ago, on this day back in 2012, Jose Fernandez. I'm sorry, 2013. On this day in 2013, Jose Fernandez made his first ever start. And Jose Fernandez was a 20-year-old kid playing for the Miami Marlins. And in his first game, he struck out 8 Mets in 5 innings and allowed just 1 run. And he was a heralded young pitcher who made the Marlins rotation. And the next game he pitched was a week later. He didn't let up a run in 6 innings. And right away, he showed that he was a pitcher that you frankly wanted to watch. In that first year, he threw 172 and 2/3 innings and struck out 187 batters along the way. His ERA was 2.19. He won the Rookie of the Year and finished 3rd in the Cy Young vote, and almost instantly became one of my favorite players in baseball. Almost right away. In that he had a flair that reminded me of Pedro Martinez. I'm not saying he was as good as Pedro Martinez, but one of the reasons why Pedro Martinez is my favorite player of all time is not just because he was great, but he was fun. He was funny. It looked like he was having fun. And when he was on the mound, he was all business. But when he wasn't, he was having a great time. And Jose Fernandez had a flair for the dramatic. And we're catching that ball, from, I forget who was in the Rockies who did a line drive and just caught it out of the air, and so it gave him a little smile. And of course, he famously hit the home run and trotted around and styled. And the Braves catcher tried to intimidate him at the home plate, and as if to say, that's not how we do things here. F you. You let up a home run to the pitcher. I don't care if he does a handstand while going around the bases. You're mad, get mad that you called a bad pitch. I hate phony tough guys. But Jose Fernandez, who then dealt with some surgery and coming back, he missed most of 2014, came back, pitched for half of 2015. Just was everything I love in baseball. He was having fun. It was dynamic. And he was a starting pitcher who made a difference. When he was on the mound, if the Marlins were bad, and they were bad a bunch of the years he were there, but if they were bad, but Jose Fernandez was pitching, then you knew there's a chance they can win. That's one thing I miss about the way we handle pitching these days, is that you would check the schedule. Who's pitching today? That's how you know who has a chance to win. Now, if the pitcher only throws 5 innings and turns into a bullpen marathon, that sort of goes away. But Fernandez was a true ace, and as fun a pitcher as I've seen pitch in a generation. And he came back in full strength at age 23, recovering from the surgery, 23 years old in 2016, made the All-Star team, and was once again putting up staggering numbers. He struck out 253 batters in 182 and third innings pitched. He won his 16 games. He was still looking at wins. He got his 2.86 ERA and just played with that wonderful flair for the dramatic. And then on September 25th of that year, it happened. He was in the boating accident, and he died in the boating accident. And someone who escaped Cuba, became a superstar in Miami, and was just the hope of Miami as a baseball center, that they had this just undeniably charismatic, handsome, funny, strutting superstar, and to lose him the way that they did, it just put a dagger in the sport. It put a dagger in Miami baseball. Now, we can't say it killed Miami baseball, because the team has gone on to make the postseason twice, once during the COVID year and once all the way back in 2023. But because the Marlins are a stupid organization, they blew up the team in 2023, because you can't have that. But look at the team he played on in 2026. Mattingly was the manager. Whatever you think of Mattingly as a manager, that's up to you. But they had an outfield of Marcell Ozuna, who I don't like as a human being, but he was an undeniably talented player, Giancarlo Stanton, and Christian Yelich. That was their outfield. And JT Realmuto was their catcher. Stanton was only 26. Realmuto was 25. Yelich was 24. Ozuna was 25. They had D. Gordon, who was 28. By the way, Ichiro was on that team. Ichiro was on that team, and Barry Bonds was the hitting coach. That's just what a weird place that was. And they had Fernandez was only 23, and Adam Conley was a talented pitcher. He was only 26. AJ Ramos was a good closer. Had a good year as a closer that year. He was only 29. I mean, that team was filled with young rising superstars in their mid 20s. And they were a team that they were 9 games around the trade deadline. They were 57 and 48. They were they were 9 games above 500 in July and sniffing at a wild card spot. Now, they wound up having the worst record in the National League in August and September, and obviously the air was taken out of the team after the death of Jose Fernandez, but there was a foundation that was being built. And I've always wondered what would have happened had Jose Fernandez lived. What would have happened? Well, what probably would have happened, because the Marlins are not a major league organization, and they've always been a Mickey Mouse organization. What probably would have happened was they would have sold everyone off like they did. But they would have had control of Fernandez's contract for at least 2 more years. It would have been 2 years to have that foundation maybe do something, and maybe have the Marlins in that stadium do well. And alas, we'll never find out. We will never find out. And one of the most dynamic and fun players of the last generation was taken from us way too soon. And today was the anniversary of that first start and all the things that could have been. And I did not want today to go by without giving him his due salute. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or for a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. If you need to find the right talent, and let's say you have a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. And posting a job that's free, it's simple, and within a day, you'll get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. So instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable top-tier freelancers to scale your business effectively. Visit Upwork.com and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right. We got some people are on the live on the live thing. I'll read some of the comments here. Oh, hey, Jackson09, who's an everyday Sully, he's catching us live today. Says your Braves got humiliated at 1 a.m. last night. Rough. Yeah, well, by the way, Jackson, that is the best reason to live on the West Coast, is because games start early. It's what my student D in my classroom, we got games starting at 9:30 in the morning. Come on west. Come west, young man. Adrian Mask is here. He's asking me, is PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, the best center fielder in the major leagues right now? Certainly right now. I mean, for this year, he's putting together an MVP caliber season right now. So there you go. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. But he's clearly a terrific pitcher, a terrific center fielder, and the Cubs did well. The Cubs did well by that. Let's see, where else we got there. Let's go to some of the questions we have here. Because we talked a lot about the potential of the Rays going to Orlando. Rays to Orlando is a no-brainer, huge money, making fans thrilling. Can't miss idea. Only 2 things will screw it up, those being the stupidity of Rays ownership and MLB leadership. Yeah, well, uh, the idiocy of the uh, leadership of Major League Baseball. No one's ever gone broke betting against the intelligence of the Major League Baseball leadership. I can't make this any clearer. I want the Rays to stay in Tampa Bay. That's what I want. I do not think they will. I think the Orlando group has its act together, and I think that yeah, I think that it's just at some point you've got to say they're putting up the money. They are putting up the money, and yeah, you can't deny that. You can't go against that. So there you have it. Let's see. No, I've already answered that one. Jeff Cohen's an everyday Sully. He says we know Judge is a great player. He would be great in any era, but a question: would his stats and achievement be so in an era with better pitching? I don't quite go along with the premise of your question here, Jeff, because I think we have good pitching now. You're seeing that a lot of the offensive numbers are significantly lower. So no, I'm not going for your the premise, because pitchers in other eras, yes, you had more pitchers going deeper into the game, but hitters in other era weren't seeing relievers coming out of the bullpen firing 100 miles an hour, and seeing the parade of relievers who are coming in and back and forth. I criticize the parade of relievers because I think it's going to wear out arms, but players in other eras didn't see that because the bullpen is where you put lousy pitchers. So there you go. Then Michael Killian's Kisker, I don't know how to pronounce this, 5826. Did Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr have their infamous duel at the site of the Elysian Field in Hoboken, New Jersey, the supposed site of the first modern baseball game? No, no. It was close, but Hamilton and Burr did not have their duel in Hoboken. They had theirs in Weehawken. The reason is because the dueling grounds in Hoboken was already booked. They were already absolutely filled with people doing duels on that day. So when they signed out the paperwork, they said, you know what, we're just better off just going to the next town over in Weehawken. By the way, read anything by John Thorne, including Baseball in the Garden of Eden, which goes through the early basically the creation myths of baseball and the early formations of baseball. It's absolutely a fascinating read, and you'll love it. And then finally, this comment has been living rent free in my head. Useless Trucker, who's an everyday solid listener, says 99% of the time I only listen to you, but when I watch you, your arms are always spread apart from your body. Your right arm is way right, and your left arm is often way left. And don't think I haven't been thinking about that left and right since he posted that. I do it to be an illustration of the political turmoil we're going through in this country. We're either far to the left or far to the right. I don't know. This is where I put my arms. All right, I'll do it like this. I'll fold them, or I'll arms up or arms down. No, here, dude. It's like I'm at a bar. I'm at a bar. Yeah. By the way, who else is in there? And oh yeah, there's Jackson O'Neill says, tell him, Sully. Thank you, Jack. Jackson has my back. Jackson absolutely has my back. Jackson served our country in the Marines, so you don't want to mess with him. You do not want to mess with him. Yeah. So okay, let's go through what the trivia question is. Now the Marlins are the one of the few teams who they have not had they've had one rookie of the year, they've won one MVP, and they've had one Cy Young Award winner. They've not had a lot of people who have piled up their rewards here. And Sandy Alcantara became the first Marlin to win a Cy Young Award. Here's the question: who was the first Marlins pitcher to crack the top 5 in the Cy Young Award voting of any year. Sandy Alcantara is the only one to win it. Who was the first Marlin to crack the top 5 in a Cy Young vote? Put the answer down right here on the YouTube channel. And I see you, Rufus24. I had fun doing Locked On A's last year too, but I don't have the bandwidth to do 2 shows a day anymore. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And leave your comments right here on YouTube. Talking about the Báez and Ray acquisitions paying off better late than never. Saluting Jose Fernandez and wondering where the hell I should put my arms. This has been Locked On MLB for the 4th day of May 2025. I'm yours, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.